Cool. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Absolutely, absolute pleasure chatting to you. You are part of one of my favorite childhood films, so thank you for
Oh,
that.
great. That's great. That's great.
Well, I mean, obviously the film and everything, but the documentary. Congratulations on that. I mean, it's fantastic. It's such a great story. Your story, the film story, Randall's story, everybody's story. So, I mean, what was your reaction when you saw it all put together for the first time with all the, they'd been following you around and everything? What was your reaction when you saw the whole thing put together?
Um, well, I was pretty nervous, I'll tell you. But and honestly, I haven't seen the complete finished version yet. I've seen some good edits, right? So, but it was really it was good. I mean, um, right, telling your story can be a scary thing, or it can be right challenging and stuff, because it's like, oh, what are people going to respond to? What are they going to maybe judge or think, you know, think less of, or things like that, right? Like there's all those like little things that can come up when we put ourselves out there for the world. So, but once I saw, the almost finished product, it was amazing. I mean, Lisa has just done a wonderful job, and of telling this story, and including so much wonderful fan stuff from the film. I mean, there were things in there that I had no idea about. There were cool old pictures too. She must have got from my mom, and then from Randall as well, that I hadn't seen for such a long time. So it was really great, and it came at a real good point in my life, where it was just this really inspiring, and really made me feel good about all the work that we've done. And it's made it all worthwhile for sure.
Yeah. Had you seen her one before? Because I know that you're friends you've been friendly with of Sam J Jones, and we actually spoke to him a couple of months ago for the Flash Gordon 40th anniversary. So we're kind of going
Nice,
through all the 80s hits that we love so much. But had you
nice.
seen that, and had you seen how she presented his story? Because a lot of people don't know his story, and he had to be just as vulnerable and tell these things just the same way that you have had to.
Yeah, I did see it, and yeah, we I met Sam at my first Comic Con, so that was pretty cool, and we had that connection through Lisa, which was great. So yeah, and let's see what. So I really, yeah, I really loved the fact that, again, it celebrated the film, for the fans, and for the love of the movie itself, and then also included, right, the heart of human story, and just that we're all people living our best lives, and doing the best with what we got, right? So it was great. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I mean, Lisa's work is so fantastic, because it would have been quite easy for her to just go, "Oh, we're just going to make a movie, the behind the scenes story of the film." But it's actually for us, as for me as a fan, obviously for fans that enjoyed the first one, and will, I'm sure, enjoy this one, that you get to not just touch base with you, but to see, Randall and Veronica Cartwright, and just kind of get the stories that, not just about, oh, it was great making the movie, the stories of how it's impacted their lives, and how, like listening to Veronica Cartwright about how fans say about this film rather than Alien, even though she was in Alien. It's
I
just
know,
it's
I know.
crazy.
Those were really neat things to see as well, right? That because I had run into fans over the years. Like, it's something, as a kid, I didn't quite realize the impact that the movie had, and then later in my life, I would run into people all over, who would be like, "Oh my God, oh, that movie," and so it was really neat that yeah, other people had that same experience.
Yeah, it was one of I'm trying. I was trying talking. I spoke to Randall the other day about the film, and I was trying to rack my brain as to whether this was one of my first, because I remember a lot of my first cinema trips as a child. My mum and dad used to take me, and I think this was one of them, maybe in 1987-ish. Because by the time
Okay.
in the old days, the UK, it was like a year later we got these things, whereas now
Right,
it's like
right.
months. Um, So yeah, I mean that was a crazy experience. I mean, it must fill you with so much joy that people are telling you not just about their experiences seeing it in the cinema, but people are going back to it, and the Blu-ray and Disney Plus and all this stuff is giving it an even greater life than you could have possibly imagined.
Absolutely. It's so neat to see how it you know, I mean, in ways, even with the VHS, I remember hearing stories of how it spanned generations, right? But yeah, thanks to these new platforms and stuff, I mean, Disney Plus, it's there. So you know, kids now can watch it, and the cool thing as well is that I think it still holds up, right? Even though the graphics and the CGI and the computer, you know, and all that stuff was cutting edge at the time, it still kind of holds up now. So all right, it works, and yeah.
Yeah, and I think Randall was saying this, and I completely agree with him in that these movies endure not just because of the visuals, but because of the story behind it. And this story about this family and this, you know, the brother relationship that's in there is what makes it endure. Do you think that's the reason why people still go back to it? That it's not just about the effects; it's about that kind of family dynamic and that relationship between the brothers and the family.
Yeah, that's definitely what I've heard and what I felt when I've watched the movie again. It's full of heart. It's a great story, and it's about that journey of finding yourself, connecting with family, you know, finding your way home, all those things where feeling disconnected, or you know, and even feeling alien even as a human type of thing, right? Instead in ways, but uh yeah, it's a real gift as far as that, this storyline and the heart and everything. And again, I've had fans reach out to me, and I've heard such amazing stories of how it's helped them get through tough times in their life just because it was so relatable.
Yeah, and it is one of those movies. It is certainly for me, but for a lot of people, it's like a kind of a comfort blanket. You know, you grow up with these things, and you just think when you're having a bad day or a bad week or something, and something happens, you can put a movie like this on and just kind of immerse yourself in that world. I mean, that must be great hearing that from fans. That that's the movie that they kind of one of those movies that they go back to over and over, even if it's just for the comfort of being in that world for 2 hours.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's such a, you know, it's such a gift. I really couldn't be happier and feel more grateful to be part of something like that, that people still love after all this time, still brings them joy, brings their kids joy, whatever, like takes them back to those childhood, you know, feelings and memories and stuff. Cause right. We can grow up and forget, sometimes, what it's like to just be a free kid and have that imagination and dream big and all that stuff. So if and I know for myself with some of my favorite movies as well, they take me back to those places of emotion of I that nostalgia, and so I'll watch the movies over and over to evoke these certain feelings of, and that's what's so wonderful about film, right? You can just watch it over and over.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the great things about this movie, and I was saying this to Randall, I love a lot of 80s because I'm a child of the 80s, that everything feels it's very real and very physical. You know, all these sets were built and everything else. For you at that age, that must have been an incredible experience, seeing not just the artistry, but I can imagine that that age you were kind of like, you wanted to kind of touch everything and see how it worked. And everything. That must have been such a great experience.
Oh, absolutely. Especially the spaceship itself, of course, right? Because that was a big set, and it was amazing. Right? You know, you walk onto the set, and you could see all the mechanics behind behind the screen, or you know, behind the curtain, so to speak, and see how the chair came out of the floor, and the tracks for Max, you know, holding him up and swinging him around and stuff, and then you'd get enclosed in this space, and all of a sudden this world would become absolutely real, and it was right there. So yeah.
Yeah, I also love some of the scenes with you and Sarah Jessica Parker, because there's a scene where you guys obviously are talking. It's the first time, and then the second time, one of the other times, he gets a little bit more confident with her. I mean, that must have been
Right.
fun, because obviously she's gone on to be a big star, obviously, but you guys
Yeah.
were both kind of in that age range together where you were still kind of discovering what it was to be in movies and what it was to be as part of this strange experience.
I think so for sure. Yeah. I mean, I remember it. Yeah, she made it really easy. That's for sure. She's a great actor, and even then, she was brilliant. And yeah, and I think that was it. Those were some of the funnest scenes for sure. As far as like relationship, because she was having fun with it, and I'm like this young, this kid, and but then there's like this girl and telling me I'm cute and stuff. So it was this kind of banter, and yeah, it was really fun. Super.
How have you found? I remember talking to Sam about this, about the kind of the Comic Cons and all this stuff, because there's such a love for not just the movies that we have today, the Marvel movies and the Avengers movies, all that kind of stuff, but these movies, there's such a love and passion for them that what's that energy like when you walk into the rooms to these conventions, because they're there for this movie. They could see any other movie in the world, but they want to come and see not just you, but to find out more about this film. I mean, that must be a great feeling, but also kind of strange, given that it's a movie that's very, very old, and there's so much cinema. Cinema is at its peak. In terms of there's so much content that they just
Right.
come back for this one movie to see you and to see all these amazing people.
Well, again, I mean, I say it quite a bit, but how grateful I am and what a gift it is to be part of something like that. Because I went to this Comic Con, and I had people, say that once they heard I was going to be there, and uh, that they've, flew from Kansas City or came from Chicago and came from LA, and they'd been waiting for 30 years for me to come to one. So I had no idea, but that was incredible, um, and I felt so amazing. It's really like I'm kind of speechless. You can't really express it in words how good it feels. It's definitely emotional, in such a positive way, and it just it like the joy that you see in people's faces, right? And they get nervous, and then I get a bit nervous, and then we've got right, and it's brilliant. I love it. And I'm really looking forward to, because I did have some other Comic Cons booked, a couple in the UK and stuff, and in the States there. So hopefully, once all this COVID kind of gets a little more normal, or we can, I'd love to do some more of those, because it's really great. I love connecting with the fans. It's wonderful.
Oh, let's hope we get to do that. I think London would go a bit mad for you coming over, let's be honest. um,
I'd love to. I'm working on it, so we'll see.
yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And then I asked this to Randall about the kind of obviously the movie's enduring appeal. I mean, do you think that, are you happy, should I say, that this movie hasn't been like remade or kind of given this new kind of sheen in the 21st century? Because it feels like you could quite easily remake a movie like this with modern technology and everything else, but then you'd almost be taking away, as we talked about before, the heartbeat of the movie by bringing it into kind of the modern day. It almost feels like it's of a time and should be left part of that time to be discovered for what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I guess because they never made a remake, I can't say 100% whether uh, it, whether I would have liked it or not. Right? But I generally, with the remakes, it's a different thing. It's made in a different time, so it can never quite be the same. I mean, there was a point when I got approached about, they were going to be doing a reboot, and I think it was Brad Copeland from Arrested Development. He had connected with me and said, "Oh, I want you to maybe do a cameo or something and be right, just to be in the film. And I thought that would have been fun, right? And it didn't happen. And I just have to believe and trust that those things, everything happens for a reason, and that it wasn't meant to happen at the time. I think, yeah, I think if it was really to work, it would have to have just as much heart. I don't think a reboot could necessarily work like a remake, but maybe a sequel. I've got a
Well, hey, they're talking about doing a long-awaited sequel to like Willow and stuff like this on Disney Plus, because it's now given everybody this platform to do lots of these amazing stuff. So you never know. You never know. I'm sure
yeah,
they'd give you a call. I'm sure they'd give you a call. Just as a final question, then, what are you
yes,
hoping people take from the documentary? Because obviously it's part about the movie and part about you. I mean,
yeah.
what's your hope for people when they kind of see it? Are you hopeful that they kind of reconnect with you, reconnect with the movie, and just see how everybody's doing and everything else?
Well, what I've found is that people still are so connected with the movie. And I think that my hope and dream is that anyone, because I've met or connected with fans who have heard about my troubles, and then some who hadn't. They had no idea until they started to see trailer for the documentary, right? Or even friends from high school who I grew up with. They said, "Oh, I had no idea," right? So there's two elements to that. One is that I hope that anyone um, who loved the movie and then saw my troubles, that it's a way for them to see kind of my side of the story in an authentic way, and that I wasn't setting out to hurt anyone, and that I and just and my appreciation for the love of the film after all this time. And then also just the fact that to try and share with anyone who may be going through any sort of traumas or struggles or life stuff, that there's always a way out of the darkness, right? And I mean, I went really, dark into addiction and criminal behavior and things like that. But even stress and anxiety and depression or mental health issues are so kind of not spoken as much, and there's a stigma around them. And I'm hoping that anyone who's going through anything can relate and see that by telling our stories, by opening up and being vulnerable and sharing our authentic selves with people, that great things can happen from it. And it's also very freeing for me to just share all the parts of me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. Absolute pleasure talking to you, and hopefully we get to see you in London at some point.
that'd be great. I hope so too.
Fingers crossed. Thank you, mate.
All right,
Take
see
care.
you later.
Cheers. Take
Bye.
care.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey,